Hello.
We're ready to get started. Kurt was nice enough to give us a segue just at the very end of his conversation to these guys who are, as Kurt said, making real-time strategy games on Facebook, which is a departure that is super cool. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave and Paul from Kixeye and let them take it away.
Okay, thank you. Right. So, hi. We haven't got too long of a presentation, so you should be able to make your lunch appointments. So, we're Paul PREECE and David Scott. We're the co-founders of Kixeye. We were formerly called the Casual Collective up to about 4 months ago. And our presentation is social games don't have to suck. Whenever I see that, I always feel like I need to put brackets after it and say for men, because that's what we really are targeting here. So we were founded in 2007 as a Flash game studio. During that time, we created a bunch of Flash games, about 13 of them, including stuff like Desktop Tower Defense, Flash Element TD, the Space game. We even went into multiplayer Flash with Minions. And we were making money using advertising revenue and creating a destination site. That didn't work out too well. So when we were looking for avenues to move into, we took a fresh look at Facebook, and with the large numbers it was seeing, it seemed like a no-brainer to take our Flash knowledge and move on into Facebook, which we did mid to late 2009. So this is what we have. I'm not sure who knows too much about us in this room, but we have what we would call the largest RTS game on Facebook, which is Backyard Monsters. It has over 900,000 daily players. It's also the highest rated game in the top 100 apps with 4.9 average out of 5, over 500,000 votes. We also focus around combat, synchronous and asynchronous combat. We also have a unicorn's head as our logo. Okay, what we haven't done, you realize that I get the greatest clap of all those 4 things. So what we haven't done is made a farming game, and we haven't joined in the Clone Wars with a lot of others. So I'm just going to show you a quick video, which I hope is going to work. There we go. So this is Backyard Monsters, which is a base building game where you build up a base, you create your monster horde, you can then go and attack other players' bases. There's lots of blood and gore. The second game we produced was Battle Pirates. This is a synchronous combat game, so you build up bases, except this time you create fleets that go out and attack each other on a persistent world. You can see there's lots of explosions, lots of mayhem. We've tried very hard to bring a more arcade quality to our games and build in a lot of action, which is what you can hopefully see there. So they almost look like games you want to play as men, right?
So just want to cover some of the sort of social game conventions that are out there at the moment really quickly. Targeting a wide demographic audience, making a game that everybody likes. Making games that are hyper-casual, have hyper-casual graphics. No skill, no loss. Everyone's a winner. So avoiding loss at all costs. My wife loves Empires and Allies because she's never lost a battle. It's true. Quick sheet feedback loops. You're just a few clicks away from your next prize. And focus on virality. Also accessibility. Games that are easy to understand and easy to understand how to play them and what they're about. There's only actually one item on the list that we agree with, and that's the accessibility. The rest of the items are just conventions, not necessarily rules, and we're going to sort of go through them one by one to show you what we're doing. So if we take the first 2, a wide demographic and casual game and gameplay. Now it's true with Backyard Monsters, we initially hedged our bets. We did have PvP, we did have blood, but we did our best to mitigate some risk. Our graphics were quite cute. And about 6 months ago, we decided to harden up. We, so we updated the graphics, as you can see. More importantly, more importantly, we introduced a persistent world where players could fight over land, and we made it harder for players to progress without engaging in combat. So that's making more of the resource collection that you do from looting other people's bases and taking it from them versus generating it in your own yard. So what we saw when we did that is we saw a lift in retention. We went from 40% female to 96% male. But more importantly, it's the game that we wanted to make.
Okay, so this is one that's very, very dear to my heart, which is no skill, no loss. So in 1994, previously games were they were challenging. Part of the satisfaction of playing a game was to overcome the challenges there, to acquire the skill and the experience necessary to defeat. This example has a boss level, which was very prevalent back there. So we switched to from our perspective, we now switched to 2011, and everything's sort of the same at all times. You never get anywhere because you're not meant to end. You're not meant to do anything. So that's how we see the more conventional social games. So we prefer real-time strategy games. So we have things like you have to acquire skill. You have to learn how to play the game. You have to get better than your opponents. So how skillful you are directly affects the success within the game. High-level player can still be beaten by a low-level player if the low-level player is more skillful. By creating resources that players have to fight over, when you win, you actually take the resources away from them. So you're not only increasing your level, you're actually having a big impact on their level, which is the zero-sum results of that aspect. Base layout matters. So while it matters to a limited amount in, say, the farming games, but it really doesn't when you look at the base on a larger scale, it doesn't really make any difference how you lay out your plots. So in Bank of Monsters, it's critical because players are out there to come and attack you. It's the place where you project your strength. It's your nest egg. People will attack your base. So how you lay out your defenses is crucial to that. And we went a step further in Battle Pirate, which is the ships themselves are highly customizable. So how you set up your ships and how you create your fleets is critical, just like in a normal RTS game. If you have the wrong type of units, you simply can't win certain engagements. So the other big strength of certainly the larger games on Facebook has been their focus on virality. And for us, a viral game is one that is viral first and a game second. We do it the other way around. And so we focus on making a game that's good to play, that actually has mechanisms in there which are satisfying for a player to use. And we very much see viral. And within that, I would also include the re-engagement loops, like trying to post on people's walls to make them come back and play the game. We bundle that in there, and we don't focus on that as much as just simply making the game fun and satisfying. So there are alternative ways of gaining the engagement boost that the viral stream post and stuff will give you. And one is to create meaningful interaction between strangers. Now, when you think about a multiplayer game, most of the interaction you're going to have is actually going to be with strangers. So it seems counterintuitive to create a game that's based around interaction between friends. So we do a lot of stuff within our games so that people who meet each other just through the game, who were strangers, will self-organize into groups, and they'll team up. And there's all this emergent gameplay that forms if you give them a sufficiently complex system to work within. That system for us is persistent worlds. We call what we created sort of MMO light. It's really just a persistent world where people actually have physical bases, where the stuff around them is the stuff around them. There's no shortcutting it. You have to work with the people you find around them, around yourselves. So variety is a journey, not the destination for us.
So there are some unspoken conventions in the industry. and these are, that player interaction should be limited. The players shouldn't interact in any meaningful or traditional way. When they do this, they limit features to features that drive virality. They ask for help, so asking for help, bragging for helping. So the question is, why is this? Maybe it's harder to control a world where the players are modifying it and shaping it with emergent behavior. Which brings on to the next point, which is sort of gaming on rails. Tighter control over the user experience. A good example of this is when I was in Cityville, I was collecting stuff and building, and then a task came up that said you need to go and collect this or build this. And I've already done it, but I didn't do it when the task told me to do it, so I had to redo it, which sort of forces the player to sort of not try and stray off the path that the dev wanted them to walk. Forced virality. So the massive audience on the top Facebook games has certainly lent credence to the argument that successful social games need to have a huge scale. We've seen, and a lot of companies, smaller companies on Facebook have seen that you can achieve good results with targeting a smaller audience with a more specialized game. Inviting friends to finish buildings, locking content behind friend count, inviting friends to complete collections. We do none of this, and we like to think that our games are better for it. So copy, cloning, reskinning. Instead of asking what's working and thinking, instead of asking what's working, maybe people should be asking what's missing. Copying isn't good for the player, it's not good for the platform, and it's not good for the industry. So the gaming experience on Facebook, we'd like to think that it could become more like Steam. I go onto Facebook, I want to play a racing game, and Facebook says back to me, well, here's the top 20, here's the ones your friends are playing right now. Want to play a simulation game. So where are they? I mean, they're not there. I can't find them. I mean, Facebook can meet us halfway. They can make a better, they can do the categories. They can make better ways for discovering the games, but it's up to us to obviously populate those categories. Meaningful experiences. We shouldn't treat the players with kids' gloves. They're adults. At least the people that we want to target are adults. They're the ones with the money. Loss mitigation, skill mitigation, yes. Don't be afraid to poke the bear. Challenge the player. You'll lose some of them. In Backyard Monsters, we modified the tutorial so that instead of being focused on base building, it took you, in the tutorial, you actually got attacked and damaged. And then we took the player to build up an army and attack someone back, all within the tutorial. Now, we saw a drop-off in tutorial completion rates, but those people that did stay around retained a lot more because they understood the game. And PvP, it does enhance and extend content. I mean, players change the game for each other. You're never going to write some AI as good as another player. With PvP, no two sessions are the same for the player. And we see sort of emerging behavior. So like in Backyard Monsters, we see players working together to build empires, and in Battle Pirates, working together to take down large bases. But of course, PvP isn't easy. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Is this not working? Okay. And with that, I want to just quickly show you guys the next game that we're working on. We haven't shown anyone yet. I don't think we've even mentioned the name. It's called War Commander, and it's the next game coming. Is that playing? Yeah, cool. So it's a true RTS experience on Facebook. What that means is lots of units in battle, and we're actually launching with 27 units in the game. All of the units can be controlled by the player as individuals or with group selects, just as you do in Command & Conquer and StarCraft. Of course, if you don't want to micro, the AI can kick in and take over. It's all about bringing a lot of firepower to the enemy's base. Emergent gameplay, just as we see in Backyard Monsters and Battle Pirates. It's very accessible because it's all built in Flash. It's completely free to play, and the graphics, they look pretty sweet. So we're hoping to launch this in August, and we're hoping that it will bring many more cool gamers to the Facebook platform. So that actually concludes our presentation, because we really want to, we enjoy the Q&A sessions, and we'd be happy to answer any questions about our games, our approach, our strategy, the company. Just go ahead.
Or you can go to lunch.
Or you can go to lunch.
It's your choice.
It's your call.
Right. Thank you.
Hey, and we're hiring.
So, go down the left.
Yeah, you guys are introducing a lot of the, with the player-to-player and the real-time strategy, who you play against being near your skill level is very important. Have you done anything to help people find people with the right skill level?
Yes, so the question was, how do you find people of the same skill level to fight against in a PvP world? So in Backyard Monsters, what we did is the player starts off in a sort of, not a true real world. We actually control who they see, who they get to fight against. And there's many different rules behind that, but the basic one is that you want people who are at your level or slightly above, and then we throw in a couple that are like super high level, just sort of as inspirational bases. We don't allow people to attack too far below them, and then once this sort of training phase wears off, they sort of upgrade and migrate into the real world, where they're meeting people that have also just upgraded into that world, so they're around about the same level anyway, and then they begin fighting over land. In Battle Pirates, it's a persistent world from the get-go, but you're being added to that world at the same time as everyone else, so it's dog eat dog. Yep.
How have you seen monetization shift since you went from 60% to 96% male?
It's gone up. That's all I can say. I mean, yeah, it's gone up.
What is like your next day, 7-day, 30-day?
They're equivalent to what you've been seeing this one.
40, 20, 10.
Yeah. Check show.
What are the various monetizing hooks you have?
It's, I mean, it's speed-up driven. We create a lot of need and a lot of want in the system. Guys always want the bigger gun, so we always try and keep it out of reach. So speed-ups drive a lot. But it's actually, once you create a complex system, a complex environment for people to be in, there's actually quite a few avenues that you can use to monetize.
We tried decorations in Backyard Monsters. They didn't work so well.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yep.
I was working on a synchronous multiplayer game, totally different genre. It was trivia, but the lessons that the players were teaching me in beta tests was they didn't want to play unless it was with their friends. Learned a lot about social anxiety and shyness. You guys throw strangers together and get them to play together. How?
Well, certainly for the start of the game, you're playing alone together, but people like to be competitive, and this is where the male mindset comes in. They like being competitive, and they're happy to beat strangers as well as friends. And if somebody comes along and lays a smackdown on your base, it doesn't really matter that they're not somebody you know. You want to go out and have vengeance, and that's what actually triggers a lot of the relationships within the game is through combat, funnily enough, that people evolve naturally into allies and have natural enemies, and it just sort of spontaneously happens if the system is open and complex enough. I think when you're trying to do it within a very limited game that's fixed, then I think you need friends there. I mean, you're treating it like a board game essentially.
Anyone else?